let's press in a little bit more on something you said prior. As far as like the challenge for on leaders to make decisions based on money, in this season, I would imagine almost all churches out there are experiencing financial pressure right now. And Rob and I were on a call with somebody who was kind of throwing some numbers out there about like the number of churches that are already like preparing to fire people. And I guess, what would you say on that? Like, what would you say to leaders that are really, even now more than ever, feeling the pressure to make decisions based on money?
Yeah, I remember I was taught by some church leaders, like names you guys would have heard of, but I won't throw them out there and throw them under the bus. But they would talk about how they liked when there was like a little bit of a budget crisis, because then they could fire the people they wanted to anyways and blame it on the lack of finances. So some of it, if you're losing your job. I think we, in the larger churches, we recognize, you start hiring people because you think, okay, we need this. And then sometimes during these budget crunch times, it's an opportunity to go, gosh, I kind of knew we didn't really need that person, or he wasn't even worth that amount of money. And so it's a good time to do it without putting it all on yourself, or without having to be honest, I guess. I forgot your question.
What would you say to these?
I'm glad I'm not asking the questions.
I know I get like, I get caught up in trying to say something right without offending people, even though I'm sure I did right then. Then I forgot the original question.
Yeah, what would you say to the leaders that are their giving's down 40%, 50%, and they're wrestling through decisions?
Yeah, no, I don't want to be so cavalier about it, because you are talking about people's livelihood that really don't know any other way. But it's a beautiful thing. I mean, one, you trust in God's sovereignty, and I just know that sometimes we all, and I don't believe it's a generalization. Let me say it this way. It would be a rare thing for someone in ministry in the U.S. to not gravitate toward comfort. I think we all do, and you don't recognize it. And you have to recognize God is sovereign, and he loves you, and he doesn't want you to sink into this dependence on anything else. And so sometimes I think he brings about some of these things, that it's not necessarily, God, make our finances come back. It could very well be in his sovereign will. He's wanting you to live by faith again. And there is to see, do I believe these promises that I'm not going to starve? And as long as I'm seeking his kingdom first. And so it causes you to think, gosh, what do I have to have? Am I really praying, Lord, give us this day our daily bread? Or am I pretty stressed, not because I won't have my daily bread, but because I won't have some of my luxuries, and life will be more difficult? Well, God may be using this to see, man, we quote Philippians 4:13 all the time. I can do anything through Christ, but that's all in context, that passage of being content, whether I have a little or a lot. When I have next to nothing, Paul says, I'm content, I'm great. It's that Psalm 23 that I'm so happy because I'm in relationship with the shepherd. That could be in the presence of all my enemies and in the valley of shadow of death, and I'm good. And so I think this is a testing time, and trust in his promises, going, you know what, I'm fine. He's my shepherd, and I'm not going to starve. He promised me that. Let me just keep seeking the kingdom. So man, I would say you got to trust the sovereignty of God and the spirituality of your staff and the love of Christ for his own church, so that you're not in this panic, because God doesn't want that. But just take it as it goes and go, gosh, we have enough for one salary, and I just got to take that as God's will. Or maybe it's like God's wanting you as a staff to go, hey guys, I just realized if you and I live together in this house, our families, we can share the salary. And use this as a great opportunity to think biblically, and not just assume that God's blessing means we all are living the same way we've always lived, and doing things the way we've always done them. God may be leading you to a greater place of blessing. And I think we see that in the early church, right? When they scattered the believers to all these other places. And I think that's what James was addressing, to those tribes scattered.
That's really good, Francis. I think one of the, I heard one leader talk about how creativity exists in the gap between your vision and your resources. And what you're saying is that, there are a lot of assumptions that we make that make it feel like certain things are impossible. But if you actually pressed into it, you're like, it's actually not that impossible to pull it off. Examples like, hey, if we live together, then a new reality would be possible. Or if we did it like this, a new reality would be possible. But people are kind of just unwilling to go there because they don't want to sacrifice the lifestyle that they had. And then I think they put forward I guess that shield of, no, that won't work.
Yeah. Yeah, we just miss out. I mean, how many times did we think something was a curse and you realize, wow, that was the best time. That was so good. And just over time, the older you get, the more you just look back in life and go, gosh, Lord, so many times I thought this was the right direction. And then you threw this speed bump that I thought was a speed bump, and then it actually took me in a much better, it wasn't a negative thing. And maybe the enemy meant it for that, but it ended up being for his good.